Hey, hello, and welcome to this Unbound with me, Nicola Humber, author of Unbound and founder of the Unbound Press. And this is a this is the first one ever of a weekly conversation, magical conversation with different people who are basically making magic in the world in their own unique, unbound way. And for the first one of this show, I could only really have one person with me. And that is the absolutely gorgeous, my dear friend and co-creator, Tonia Gaudiuso. And welcome, Tonia.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and be live with you.
Absolutely. So, Tonia, I met just under a year ago now. We met at a Mama Gina event, the Mass 3 event in New York City, ended up sitting next to each other and realizing we had so much in common. And we've been in contact, we've been connecting pretty much daily.
Yep. Yep. Just love at first sight.
Exactly. And it just gets deeper all the time. Recognizing, that we have so much, like I said, in common. And Tonia co-creates the Sacred Money Circles with me, which are these monthly online events that we host where we hold space for women to come together in community and to open up to their natural state, which is abundance. But I'm sure we'll talk more about that during this conversation. So Tonia, to kind of kick us off and see what wants to come through today, because like I said, this is a conversation rather than an interview. And we both work best. We were just talking about this. We both work best when we don't know what's going to happen.
No, and it's the strangest thing that's now how it is, when before, if you didn't tell me what was happening, I couldn't even do it. I would just like totally freeze up and be like, no. I actually wouldn't have even gone on this interview, because that's, for so long, I just wasn't wanting to be seen and in front of the camera. I didn't like my voice. Like, there's just so many things that would have not had this happen. So to be here and just be like, oh, just come on in the morning and we're just going to do something. I'm like, sure. It's pretty remarkable. It's pretty cool.
Oh, well, I love that. And thank you for kind of trusting me, I guess, to hold the space and, to, like I said, for us both to be open to what comes through, because this is when magic happens, and we recognize this like every day when we kind of hop on Skype and we kind of recognize that very often there's similar things coming up for both of us, and we kind of activate each other, we activate awareness in each other. And that's why I wanted to have these conversations, because I think when we come together, either when it's with one other person or in a group, like magic really happens. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. So, you were talking there about how in the past you needed to have everything prepared and to know exactly what was going to happen. And, I wanted to talk about, obviously this is called Unbound. The theme of these conversations is Unbound. It's kind of the theme of everything I do. So what does Unbound mean to you? And where in your life in the past have you felt most bound?
The whole past 35 years of my life, I felt unbound. I mean, not bound.
Yeah.
Felt bound.
Yeah.
But for me, I think every year there's a different version of me that becomes unbound. So I feel like there's never going to be a part where I'm not, the unbound I was before, I never could have imagined, and then there's a next level to it. So for this year, there is this, the unbound that I want to create is like this conviction. It's like my word for the year, where it's just, I am now into the light and wanting, but now there's this level of just no hesitation, just being there, moving with just grace and ease, like unbound, being out in the open, not giving shit, sorry, I curse, about what other people think, or censoring myself. If it's literally coming through from my intuition, if it's something that brings me joy and that I'm being led to do, I just do it. And I do it with joy and just absolute bliss. So for me, that's like the unbound for this year, what I'm trying to achieve, and also community. Those are my two actual words for the year, is conviction and community. Because this whole, exactly what you just said before this, is everything. With this, it's great to learn to depend on yourself and to reach a state of peace within yourself. And then once you do, and another person has that, it just sparks magic and things move quicker. This momentum builds. It's like the fire gets stronger. And so that's the unbound. It's like not just me anymore, but it's an unbound community of women in their own version of what that means for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really feeling that, like, in the collective for so many of us. And I was certainly feeling it last year, but it's just become even stronger and clearer. It is about coming together. I always say when we come together, we become more. We become more of ourselves when we come together. Yes. I discover more of myself every time I speak, like with you, or even one of my clients, or in one of the groups that I run. I'm always discovering more of myself, and I love how you say there that kind of your unbound self kind of changes every year, like the focus. It's always
every day.
Like another.
Yes.
It's always like another level, another layer to go to, which is exciting. We're never done. We're never completely unbound. There's always something.
But that's the great. And before, that would have given me anxiety. And before, I mean, that's part of the whole bound thing. I was a controller. That's because I was being run by fear or anxiety. It was controls this false sense of security. And so for so much of my life, I just did things. I would run like a risk analysis. And it would seem from the outside that I was very adventurous. And I was, to a certain extent, but I kind of always knew the outcome. And if it wasn't in my favor, I wouldn't do it. Like, failure was not an option or something I ever wanted to do. Getting messy wasn't something I wanted to do. Like, it was leading this life of perfection and just proving that I was amazing. And God, that's so boring. It's, what's the point of doing something when you know the outcome? Like, I would always know the outcome. At a certain point, it just lost its allure, which then took me into now trusting my intuition, creation, which is all about getting messy and failing, embracing the mistakes, and knowing that they are just as important as succeeding. But, there was so much fear, anxiety, beliefs that were wrapped up in it. I wouldn't even speak. Like, I had for a very long time that I wouldn't talk because I did not like my voice. I thought it was too deep. I got bullied as a kid, so I was called like a man's voice. So I actually wouldn't raise my hands in class in college to talk. Like, it was, and then I realized my calling was to be a speaker. So I was like, great, we've got to unpack this one. So, there's a lot of life that was bound by fear.
I can't believe that. I mean, I can, because, this story comes up in different ways over and over again for each of us. But I can't believe that you used to kind of hold back and not want to speak, because I love hearing you speak now. And your voice is so damn sexy. I just like, every time you speak, I'm like, and I just love what comes out of your mouth, how you express yourself. And it's so funny. I mean, I really resonate with that because, when I was at school and, right through probably to my mid to late 30s, when I first really started this journey, I just couldn't speak in public. I would just jam up. I couldn't, And now you can't shut me up.
We're going Facebook Live. I don't know what we're going to do. We're just going to create magic. Let's do this. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned control there, which I know for both of us, we've spoken about this a lot, about how in the past and even now this can show up in different ways, because we're kind of taught, like conditioned basically to kind of want to control everything, and that, we should want to kind of try and get these very definite, specific outcomes, and that's how you can be successful. But a big part of this is kind of letting go of any need to control. and allowing the mess and the chaos often of creation. And I'm also noticing how, you know, certainly one of your words for this year is conviction, which feels, there's kind of a different energy to that. It's a very definite energy to that word, conviction.
Yeah.
So can you just say a little bit more about that? There's a contrast there between allowing the mess and the chaos, which feels more kind of like feminine, to kind of allow that go with the flow and the creativity, and that conviction, which really feels like, it's like, right, I'm just cutting through the crap and I'm just going to kind of go for it.
Yeah.
Which feels more masculine, really, you know, if we're thinking about it in that way. How are you kind of finding or allowing the balance there?
I haven't. Well, I am now navigating the balance. Lately, the theme has really been balancing the masculine and the feminine. And it's been a theme. I haven't even realized it in my life. I mean, even what I do with money, my program is based off of now balancing the masculine and the feminine. And so for this year to be now putting them together, because I feel like a lot of my life I was moving forward in my masculine and just in the get it done, push through. I mean, I'm first generation Italian. So a lot of, you know, my family, there wasn't ever a woman entrepreneur in my family. You know, it was have a family, get married, and yes, you could have a career, but the priority is that. So I wanted to be successful and just have and be a businesswoman. And the only model of that existed was a masculine. So I just took those attributes and I ran with it. So I'm realizing for so long I had this negative, well, after I embraced the feminine, I had this negative of like, I don't want to go back to being that way. And I don't want to be the masculine. But last year was a lot of me being in my feminine and surrendering and allowing my intuition to come through. But it was very fluid. And although things unfolded and I started to realize my magic, trust myself, self-love, there were just certain things that weren't getting done. And I wasn't at that point last year to do it. But now this year, I'm clear, right? Like last year allowed me to get clear around what it is that I wanted to create, the imagining, the dreaming, and all of that. But in order to get that done, no, the masculine needs to come back in, which is why that conviction, which is just like execute. And I found myself resisting it so much. And I mentioned this to you, and I realized that it's because I was equating the masculine to the patriarchal masculine versus like this divine masculine of just knowing what you want and going for it. It's inspired action, swift action. And so there is this level of clarity that conviction just has, that it just is so, you know, it's like the doubt is removed, the fear is removed, and it's like this resolute, and I'm just there doing it because like I am being guided toward what needs to get done. So it's not about me, it's about a higher calling that's coming through to be in service. So it's like that conviction, like of being in service and knowing it might be crazy, it might not make sense, but there's this intuition that I now follow. So it's like the feminine is leading the way and the masculine is supporting me to execute it in there. So it's like there's this team within me now that's existing. And I'm just learning how to pull in, you know, both when I need it.
Yeah. It's like the masculine create, like you say, that support, that foundation to help you to move forwards in a way that is guided by the feminine. Yeah. It's really important to have both of those aspects, isn't
Absolutely.
it? That's how we create. I'm sure a lot of the people, especially a lot of the women watching, will identify with that, because I think a lot of us, I mean, I know certainly I was really in my masculine, although, you know, with my first book, Heal Your Inner Good Girl, it was all about being the good girl. But really, like the inner good girl is like one of the ways that we internalize the patriarchy, and it's the way we just kind of push through and we don't listen to our true selves, and we do things the way we should, or the way we think we should. And, you know, we try and meet these external expectations, which, like you, I did for so long. And we both have this kind of background in kind of finance in the corporate world where, you know, I think we were both really in our masculine in different ways. And so certainly over the past few years, I've noticed this kind of swing, not just for me, but for most of the women in the Unbound community, to like swing right back into our feminine and really be in that place of flow and intuition, which is so gorgeous. And it's kind of like we need to really go back into it kind of fully before we can start to bring the masculine back in a way that is kind of, you know, divine and sacred, rather than this kind of toxic masculinity that we've, you know, this really patriarchal way that we've had of doing things before, if that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense. To me, we've been on this journey together too, from what we did last year, but it makes absolute sense. And I'm just recognizing as we're speaking, it just sounds so simple, but it's not, because there's so much conditioning that goes with it. And then, you know, you start to talk about why women embrace the masculine or whatever persona that we take on. It's usually because it's the cover up of pain that happened, or, you know, a lot of what I was going with the masculine is because I didn't feel like the feminine could exist. Like it didn't exist. I mean, in Italian culture, a lot of the times it looks a certain way. So it's breaking these paradigm stereotypes, whatever you want to call it. So if you find yourself not having to do it so easily, it's because it's not an easy program to break. It's like the first thing is just like that awareness of it, but it does then attach to the emotions, you know, and that's when the emotions of things come up. That's why when you ask them, like, well, I'm still finding the balance, because there are some days I'm just like, oh man, this hurts. I'm like, what is this? And it's connected to a past trauma that I forgot or I suppressed, and I'm strong enough to deal with it now. So it comes up so I could just like bring it to the, you know, backside and heal it. But there's just so much attached to, especially for women, and what we've been through and what we have to endure for what we want.
Exactly. And I think this is why so many women can struggle at times to, you know, really create in this powerful way where they are allowing themselves to receive as well for what they've created. You know, this is a lot of the work we do together is around money and abundance, because we've been through it ourselves and are going through it ourselves as well. Yeah. But because there's this resistance to anything that feels that it's connected with, you know, the masculine, or this patriarchal representation of the masculine. So even words, you know, you talk about conviction, and I know we've spoken about like discipline, you know, I write about that in Unbound, and kind of reframing it as divine discipline, which helps. But, you know, anytime you bring up the word discipline, responsibility, like in my groups, in my writing mastermind, we have like an accountability thread, a weekly accountability thread. And even the word accountability, it's like, oh, that can feel a bit, you know, some people are like, oh no, that feels a bit too, it's a bit too much. We like totally resist these kind of words or these concepts because they're associated with kind of this really harsh kind of, no, you just push through and get it done and override your own needs.
Yes. And that's the whole thing, is starting to learn to find a balance. And the reason why also we could resist them is because that requires boundaries in order to have a healthy masculine.
That's another one.
And the other thing I'm just realizing as we're talking too, like masculine and feminine, we're not talking about male and female.
No.
So when we talk about masculine, we're not talking about men. These are just characteristics that fall under female and masculine. So I don't just wanted to make that distinction, but it's, I resisted responsibility and commitment because I didn't know how to ask for what I wanted, or to say, no, I don't want to do that, because I was more attached to the approval of someone else versus my own comfort. I always sacrifice myself first for anything else. And that's a lot of what has been coming into, and that's the other thing with my word, I think conviction is just knowing, being able to set those limits, those boundaries. And it's not from and it's not that I have anything with the word bitchy, but it's from a place of like, no, I respect myself. And this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of love. So if it offends you, then that's something with you, not with me. But man, is it push my buttons when I have to practice it? I still do it. Boundaries is an interesting one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you made that distinction there as well between like talking about masculine and feminine. It's not about male or female. It's about, you know, the qualities really that we have within ourselves, like the masculine and feminine qualities that we have within ourselves. And when we talk about the patriarchy, we're not talking about men. We're talking about kind of this construct, this system, and the ways we internalize the patriarchy that can show up, which, you know, is what we're trying to unpick and unbind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really allowing ourselves to be supported by our own masculine, really, kind of having like those boundaries in place, having those kind of foundations in place, that structure that can help us to move forwards and create and receive, like creating a container to actually receive. And we know, you know, with money needs that. Money needs that kind of, you know, container, something to kind of flow into.
Yeah, I mean, money is just a tool. Just as if when we start learning, you know, leading with our intuition, that our mind just becomes a tool too to execute things when it's not leading ego and all of that stuff. But yet money, and it needs the balance of male and female. You can't have one without the other. So it's really creating this, but the work just like is just how to receive. And to really receive graciously. I find that in, you know, as women, we're very naturally giving, and we give and we give and we give and we give. And then, you know, there's this receiving where we're sitting, you know, I have found at least I found.
Sorry, it broke up a bit at my end then, but I'm sure what you said was really, I didn't hear the last bit of what you said, but I'm sure it was completely amazing. Can you hear me still? Are you still with me, Tonia? Okay, I'm not sure if Tonia's still with me, or maybe Tonia can hear me and whether you can still see us live. So I will probably just complete this by inviting you, if you can still see me, to join Tonia and I for the next Sacred Money Circle, which is happening tomorrow, Thursday, January the 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 6 p.m. UK time. It's an online circle that we host once a month, and we'll pop the details below this video. And we're also planning to host an in-person event. Oh, I think Tonia has gone now. An in-person event in New York in February. So if you're interested in that, just message either I or Tonia, and we will get the details to you when they are confirmed. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Tonia for joining me. This is what happens. This is the mess of creation, and it's all good. It's all absolutely perfect. And I want you to know, as we finish this today, you know, keep creating, even when it's messy, even when it's imperfect, because, you know, you can't get it wrong. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about the masculine and the feminine within yourself, and how you are allowing all of those different aspects, and any resistance that you've experienced to that. I'd be really interested. So do comment below and let me know. And I will see you next week again for the next Unbound conversation. Bye.